right. Well, we are getting close to a little bit after 1, so I think we'll start now if you're okay with that, Jennifer and Stephanie, just to make sure also with everyone's time we respect here. We'll get started with today's training. So I am Anna, everyone, and welcome. I'm one of the clinical analysts here on the SUD team with OCHN, and we're so happy to partner today with Michigan Certification Board of Addiction Professionals, or as we all know it in short, MCBAP. And so we have our new executive director, newer, I should say, Jennifer with us today, and also Stephanie as well. And they will do a great job introducing themselves. I'm not going to overspeak for them. They did a great job doing that themselves. We're just glad to have you here. Just remember, as I said, this is being recorded. So make sure that we're muted during this time to respect everybody as well for background noise and things of that nature. And I'm also being prepared of that myself in case my dog decides to go bonkers, because he's known to do that. Also, if you have any questions, as we said, please feel free to put it in the chat and raise your hand. Also, introduce yourself in the chat so we can get to know one another while we are here today. And to make sure, if you want to receive the MCBAP credits for today's training, there will be an evaluation at the end. There will be a link that is sent in the chat. So make sure you complete that at the end to be able to receive the credit. And then our training team will make sure you have that certificate. I believe it's within 7 to 10 business days after the evaluation is completed. So with that being said, I will turn it over to Jennifer and Stephanie, and welcome everybody. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you, Anna. We appreciate that. And we appreciate the whole OCHN team that's been working with us to get these presentations together. The last 2 sessions we've done we've stimulated really great questions and great conversation points. So we've tried to include some slides here based on what we've learned in the last trainings. And like Anna said, I am Jennifer Mitchell. I'm the Executive Director of the Michigan Certification Board for Addiction Professionals. And it is much easier to say MCBAP than to say all of that. So I will say that's who I am. I've been in the substance use disorder field for about 27 years now. And so it's my passion, it's my life's work. I am very dedicated to it, and I know all of you are too, everyone on this call. I am a fully licensed professional counselor by training. I'm also a certified clinical supervisor and a CADC myself with MCBAP. And I have, in Michigan, I've worked at a variety of different locations: residential, partial hospitalization, intensive outpatient, traditional outpatient, as well as transitional housing. And so I have a wide variety of experience on the treatment side of things. And I know that we have quite a few people on the call too that are from prevention. So we welcome you as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie Durbin to introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Durbin. I am a credentialing specialist, and I've been doing this for about 6 months. Prior to that, I was the administrative assistant for MCBAP. So all in all, I've been with MCBAP for about a year. Carrie and Jill are the ones that you talk to if you call, or if you talk to us on chat, or if you email us. We try and get your answers to you as soon as we can. So welcome.
Thank you, Stephanie. And the things we're going to review today are introductions, which we'll talk a little more about, our mission, the value of credentialing, the written exam, which everyone always has plenty of questions about and anxiety about in some cases. We'll also talk about the best practices for those of you who are a clinical supervisor, and we'll review some recent announcements that have come out from MCBAP, and hopefully you've been receiving our emails. And we'll also share with you an upcoming training that Stephanie will be doing. She'll give you a sneak preview of what she'll be doing in those. So as Stephanie mentioned, there are 4 of us here in the office. So there's me. Jill Goronsky has been with MCBAP for several years. You may have worked with her if you are completing your initial credential or renewing. Stephanie does all of the development plans. So anyone who's gone through a development plan in the last year or so, Stephanie has had a hand in that. And she also does the initial and the renewals. And then Carrie Wolf is our newest team member, and she's an administrative assistant. And Stephanie has been training her up into her role. And Carrie's been with us for about 90 days now. Almost all of you have probably already talked to her. You have interacted with her either on the talk feature, we call it, or the chat feature on our website. And if you don't know about that, we'll tell you about that today. If you called on the phone, you've often talked to Carrie. So a lot of these folks you've already interacted with at one time or another. We want to make sure in CertiMe that your email address is your personal email address, and that's something that if in our last email blast we received word back that the email didn't go through, we sent you an old-fashioned snail mail communication asking that you go into CertiMe and update your email address. And we ask that you use a personal account. And the reason for that is that your credential belongs to you. And so you want to make sure if you leave one employer and go to another that you don't lose access to your credential information. Stay in touch with us. We have a strong LinkedIn and Facebook profile, and we want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date information. And when we send out emails, we also cross-post that to Facebook and LinkedIn. So if you miss it on one spot, you may catch it on another. And as you know, we have our website, and everyone I think is familiar with the best way to reach us is info@MCBAP. And that is a real person that's checking that email. So you don't have to worry that that's going to nowhere land. There is someone checking that every day. And as always, you can call us, and our phone number is there as well. And in the last trainings, a lot of people asked whether or not you would get copies of these handouts, and you will. I'll be following up with an email after the presentation. Members of the OCHN team are going to send us a list of folks who attended the training. So we'll send these PowerPoint presentation materials out to you. So feel free to take all the notes you want to, but don't feel like you have to write down everything that you see. So just an overview, you've heard of IC&RC if you've taken the written exam. IC&RC is the International Credentialing and Reciprocity Consortium. And IC&RC promotes public protection by offering internationally recognized credentials and exams for prevention, substance use treatment, and recovery. And so does MCBAP. So MCBAP works closely with IC&RC. And IC&RC is, you'll see their information, like I said, when you go to take your exam. And they're also the ones who establish credentials that you'll see on a map here shortly that have international appeal as well as within the United States. And so MCBAP's mission is similar to IC&RC. We provide public protection to promote quality service through certification of professionals engaging in the substance use disorder treatment and prevention. So again, both of the missions are very similar to one another. One thing a lot of times people want to know, and I was at the SUD administrative hearing this morning, and someone literally asked me, what's the value of having a credential at all? We want to have a quality workforce that's trained in a quality way. So quality care requires a competent workforce. And we want to make sure that a competent workforce is well trained and well educated, and that they're skilled to provide appropriate services. And when you apply for a MCBAP credential, we're verifying your education, that you've gotten supervision from someone with experience in the field, that you have taken a written exam and you've had to study for that, and you've received ongoing education. And any credential, any certification has demonstrated improved outcomes. And so there are multiple certification bodies that have been able to demonstrate that certification boards, those who have a credential or a certification, actually practice at a higher level than those who don't. So it really is something to be proud of when you have a credential. And for those of you who are fully licensed, another value of credentialing is that part of, I mentioned I'm a licensed professional counselor. Part of what I'm held accountable to is practicing within my scope of practice. So if you're an LMSW, you're held accountable to the same thing. One way to demonstrate that you have the ability to work with clients that have substance use disorders is holding one of these credentials. You're proving that you can practice within this scope and that you have the skills and abilities to do so. And as you know, if you do have one of our credentials, it's not easy to attain, and it's something definitely to be proud of once you've earned it. So I mentioned that IC&RC is throughout the United States and the world. And as you can see here, there's a lot of yellow or orange, however it looks to you, on this map. And everything that's in the yellow or orange are members of IC&RC. And these are states and countries that have similar credentials to ours, which means that if you move to another state or another country that has IC&RC, there are some similarities in what those regions will require in terms of obtaining a credential. They're not exactly the same, but there are minimum standards that are set forth through IC&RC. So we'll move on to the test. Does anyone have any questions so far? And again, feel free to type those in the chat. Stephanie's watching the chat and she can answer those as we go along. You can also click the raise your hand and we can take you off mute to ask questions at any time as well. So in terms of the written exam, like I said, this is something we get lots of questions about. So this slide is one that you'll be interested to see. On the left-hand side, there's a typo, so I apologize for that. January 1st to December 31st, 2021, not 2022. I'm not psychic. I can't see what's going to happen as this year wraps up. But from January 1st to December 31st of 2021, this is the number of people in Michigan who took each of the individual exams and what the pass percentage was. And the reason I tell you the number of people is because if you see the CCJP, it says 100% of those people passed. Well, that's because only one person took the exam. So it could have gone the other way, right? However, we had lots of people who took the CADC exam, and around about half of those who took the treatment exam passed. I share this with you to let you know that this is an exam that you'll need to study for. A lot of times people get into their development plan, they do their education, they're doing their supervision, and they feel like at the end of that, that will be enough to pass the exam. But there is an academic component to this. And so part of what we'll share today is actual tools that you can use to study for this exam that have been proven to help people gain the knowledge that they need in order to pass. So any questions about our pass rate in Michigan? The IC&RC exam is a psychometrically sound and legally defensible process. There is so much work that goes into creating an IC&RC exam, and it's people like you, and there could be at times a call out for people like you to actually participate in writing some test questions or participating in delineating job components. There could be lots of times that you're asked to participate in this type of an activity with IC&RC, and we really do invite you. We want to make sure that Michigan is well represented when that happens. But just so you know too, this written exam is created by people throughout the world and throughout the United States, and they're all people that hold jobs similar to yours. And these questions are taken out of texts that are considered valid in the field. So sometimes we're asked, where do they come up with these questions? And again, I think it's just important to kind of know the holistic perspective that there is a lot of knowledge and skill that goes into the creation of the written exam. And that's why we really do encourage you to study those materials that we'll get into here in a little bit. Again, the exams are written by certified professionals. So these are people, again, they're your peers and subject matter experts in the field. And all of them are actually trained in how to write a test question. And those test questions are then proven valid by psychometricians. And there's also an anti-bias committee that looks at all of these test questions to ensure that they're fair and that folks are equitably able to answer them accurately. So the best practices for exam prep. So if you haven't taken your exam yet, one thing that Stephanie will tell you, and so will I, is that as soon as you enter into a development plan, that's the time to start studying. That's the time a lot of people just want to take a deep breath and sigh, and they're happy they got their development plan, but that's actually the time to start studying. The reason for that is that people who are most successful with taking the test study in small chunks for a long period of time. So I don't know about you, but when I was in college, I did a lot of cramming, and research proves now that's not the way we learn. Human beings learn much better if we take a small amount, chunk it down, as a friend of mine says, break it down into smaller parts, edible bites, and study those over a longer period of time, and you'll do better. So start early. Plan to take that exam within, I don't know, the first 9 months to a year. You're going to know when you're ready more than we're going to know when you're ready. But if you've been practicing and taking sample exams and things along the way, you'll know when you're ready. But generally, it's around that 1 year mark. And we want to let you know there's a 90-day mandatory waiting period between every time you take the test and are unsuccessful. So we're sure that you're going to be successful in passing the exam. However, worst case scenario, if you're not successful the first time, there's a 90-day waiting period. The 90-day waiting period is for you to review your test scores. It'll tell you how you did in each domain. And you'll really focus those 90 days on studying the components of the test that you didn't do as well as you wanted to the first time around. And so you can see why you shouldn't wait until the end of your development plan period, right? Because you don't want your development plan to run out and for you to lose your development plan because you didn't pass the test the first time and you have a 90-day waiting period. We've had some really challenging conversations with people who've been in that exact same situation, and that's the reason we're proactively trying to get the word out to test early in the process. Not too early. I mean, you want to get some experience under your belt, and you want to make sure that you've been studying, but don't wait until the end. Another key component that we've seen from people who are successful in passing the exam is that they took part in study groups. And the reason that people are successful in that is, again, we talked about breaking it down into smaller chunks. And so if you take a chapter and you and 5 of your closest friends who are getting the same credential as you agree once every 2 weeks or once a month, you're going to get together and talk about the material that you read, you're more likely to actually read it. And when you talk about it, you're more likely to retain the information. The last thing that we want to say regarding exam prep is that if you need special assistance, ask for it. You know, there's no shame in asking for that. If you have any need for modification, you want to request that at least 60 days prior to when you want to schedule your test. So we just ask that you plan for that in advance. If you're a person who needs extra time, if you're someone who has a learning disability and you need extra assistance, anything that you need, we just would like for you to know that you want to ask for that 60 days in advance of the time you want to take the test. And when you register for the test, Stephanie is the person who's helping with that. And so Stephanie also can answer any questions if you have any related to requesting special accommodations. Again, the test results indicate your success in every domain. And so if you are not successful in passing the first time, you can really focus your study efforts for your second attempt. So I'll take a pause there before I go on to study materials. Any questions generally about the test? So Wendy asked, how much does the test cost? Is it $150, Stephanie? No, see, that's why I rely on Stephanie. That's why she's here. How much is it, Stephanie?
The CPRM exam is $100 and all the others are $175. And I'll put that in the chat because I know numbers go into my brain and just leave.
I apparently just averaged it and came to $150. So Stephanie will give you the right information. So these are the slides coming up now that most people are interested in the most. And so again, you're going to get these in your email. But these are CADC study materials related specifically to that exam. And so one thing that I noticed when I came into this position is that a lot of people weren't familiar with the IC&RC candidate guide. And the candidate guide is a super helpful tool because it talks through the domains so that you understand the domains. It also talks through how the tests are developed in more detail than I just went over. It talks through how many questions there will be and that kind of thing. So it's really helpful. And then there is an M404 getting ready to test that the Ready to Test company created that is super helpful for the CADC study materials that you'll be able to use as part of your study group. The CAADC study materials, that M404 you'll see here is also recommended, and there's a supplemental review guide for the CAADC exam that if you haven't been able to successfully pass using the M404 on its own, you'll want to add the supplemental review as part of your study materials. Prevention study materials, I just learned about a new one last week, and so I'll be adding that to this slide. But there is a Rhode Island Prevention Specialist Certification Study Guide. That's actually a PDF, so that's free. So you can click on here and download that and study for the prevention exam. And peer recovery study materials, the same thing, the Rhode Island Peer Recovery Certification Guide, that's also a PDF that's free that we recommend that you use as part of your study. And then for criminal justice, we have the IC&RC candidate guide that's available for you. So for clinical supervisors, we recommend that you study anything that helped you pass your CADC exam. We recommend that you refresh yourself on those materials. There is a chunk of the test, a significant chunk that's still related to the treatment of substance use disorder. So you want to refresh yourself on that. And then here, there's some that are specific to supervision that you're going to want to access. 2 of them are free, and they're from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Association, the TIP 52 and the TAP 21A. Those are 2 great resources for you. And there's also Getting Ready to Test manual for CCS as well. Any other questions about the exam before I move on to clinical supervision? So for those of you who are clinical supervisors or have one, so that's probably most of you, there are a couple of best practices that we want to let you know about that we learned the hard way. One is that we've had supervisors, unfortunately, leave their jobs unexpectedly, move out of state unexpectedly, or pass away. And in those circumstances, it leaves their supervisees in a really tenuous position. And so we've had some really hard conversations with supervisees in situations like this. And so what we want to do is to help prepare you so that you don't end up in the same situation. And what we recommend is both the supervisor and the supervisee equally track progress toward each of the domains in writing, so that if either party vacates their position without notice, both parties still have access to that information. And so the way that you do that, this is not mandatory. This is just a recommendation that we have based on some challenging conversations we've had to have with folks. That can be an Excel spreadsheet, it can be in a shared drive, it could be a piece of paper the 2 of you share. Whatever you decide to do, we do recommend that you both have equal access to it. We also want to let you as a supervisor know that when a supervisee changes employment, or if they're an intern and they leave your agency, please make sure that you let us know that. We'll put their development plan on hold, and we'll keep that on hold until they obtain a position at another agency, or it'll just stay on hold until they decide that they want to come into the field. So make sure that you do that. And part of that too is that you're the supervisor of record. And so you want to take that as a supervisor really seriously. You only want people that are supervisor of record for you, of people that you have knowledge of what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Other best practices for clinical supervisors are, we encourage you to attend one of the training sessions that Stephanie's going to give you a sneak peek of as a supervisor. So the training session is how to register for a MCBAP development plan in CERTME. And the reason we encourage you as a supervisor to attend is because you'll become familiar with what it looks like from their side of CERTME, and you'll also be able to help them answer any questions that they might have after they've finished Stephanie's training. And so we do encourage you to be familiar with that. One other thing that we would say for you as a supervisor is make sure that you are working with your supervisees, not only doing clinical supervision with them, but checking in with them on a regular basis to see, are they making progress toward studying? Are they making progress toward getting the specific amount of education they need? Are they getting the amount of work hours they need? That type of thing. So you're overseeing their entire development plan. A new website feature, it's not that new anymore, so you might already be familiar with it, but there are some who aren't, so we want to let you know. If you look down here, in the bottom right-hand corner, it says "We are here." So when you see that, We are. It's one of us here in the office, and we are here. And so when you ask a question, if you click on that, it will, you know, prompt you to ask any question that you have. So we encourage you to use that. And this is best used for simple questions. It's not a place for a review of your entire application. It's too challenging to do that in this type of forum. But if you're having trouble finding something on our website, you have a specific question related to something, that kind of thing, that is a really great feature. And like I said, Carrie is often the one who's answering it. She's on there right now. And Jill and Stephanie take turns doing it in the morning. Jill's doing it early morning, Stephanie takes it mid-morning, and Carrie has it in the afternoon. And part of what you've probably gotten recently in an email from me, and if you haven't gotten an email from MCBAP in the last week or two, you might want to reach out to us at info@MCBAP and let us know that, and we can verify whether or not your email address is correct in our records. But these are some examples of updates that we've sent out. As of 9/1/2022, a CCS will need to have a master's degree or higher in a clinical field. So we often get asked, what's a clinical field? So clinical you can think of as an LMSW, an LPC, that type of thing. Now, the reason that change was made is that when we look to the future of what certified clinical supervisors are responsible for, you know, the ASAM continuum, when you're doing that, needs to be signed off by someone with a clinical master's degree. There are multiple other components of being a certified clinical supervisor that require a master's degree. So when we look into the future, that's something that we could see as a board of directors and as an agency that the field needs in the future. And so that change was made. We've had good results from having conversations with folks who were impacted by that, and either moving them into a CCS or coming up with a plan for their agency that will meet the needs of the agency. Any questions so far?
Do you know the name of the email that the MCBAP email would have been sent? It was info@MCBAP, right?
It would have come from info@mcbap.com, yes. And so that's a great question. So if you search your email, and the provider that we use for that is Constant Contact. And so you're probably familiar with getting other emails from that platform, Constant Contact. That's a good question, though. You should be able to search your inbox. Check your junk mail, too, if it didn't show up. Check your junk mail and see if it's in there. Constant Contact works hard to make sure they don't end up in junk mails, but you know, no system is perfect. So you may have ended up there, and you'll want to make us safe so that we don't end up there again. For folks who want a CADC development plan, if they have a high school diploma or a GED, it requires 2 years of being a peer recovery person, either through MCBAP or through the state. And once you've had 2 years of being a peer recovery person, then you would be able to apply for a development plan for your CADC. I think most people who were impacted by that already know that at this point, but just in case you didn't, we wanted to let you know. One of the things we've gotten the best feedback about, the most positive feedback, is that effective 7/11, we eliminated all face-to-face education requirements. Because one of the things, we had a lot of painful lessons through COVID, but we also had some good lessons through COVID. And one of the good lessons is that there's a lot of high quality education that happens virtually. And COVID actually encouraged training agencies to become even more proficient and better at doing trainings virtually. And so based on that, we did lift that requirement. However, if you're still a person who needs the face-to-face and that's the way you learn best, please continue to go to the face-to-face trainings. But just know that when you are uploading your application materials, it will ask currently in the application whether or not it was face-to-face. We're updating those applications as we speak, but at this time, you are no longer required to have that face-to-face requirement. Speaking of education, the most common, and it's a daily question, Stephanie, would you agree? A daily question is something specific or related? And why do you care at MCBAP whether something is specific or related? So one thing to keep in mind is that, again, as we talked about, for your licensure, you have a broad base of knowledge. So if you're an LMSW or an LPC, you have a broad base of knowledge. And part of what you're called to do in getting a MCBAP credential is to show your specialization in the substance use disorder prevention or treatment field. And so in order to do that, we're looking for specific education. And what specific means, very broadly, is that if the title actually includes something related to alcohol, tobacco, and drug issues. And so there's some key words here that you can look for, including co-occurring disorders. The thing that is most commonly misunderstood is that process addictions such as cyber addiction, sex addictions, relationship addictions, gambling addictions, those types of things are not considered specific for the purpose of MCBAP substance use disorder education. And so that's something, if you and your team are not familiar with, just want to get that word out there, that these are specific to substances that are consumable. A related education, and you may need to have some related is those things I just said, all of the process addictions, those still count. They're just considered related education. Also things such as general counseling skills. So if you go to an EMDR class or if you go to a group therapy, that type of thing, those are related. And any specific therapeutic method or clinical theory, those are considered related. So I'll pause here. Is there any questions about specific versus related? I'm surprised. I usually get questions about that. Another piece of news that people have been excited about is that the board of directors extended all development plans by 6 months. And they did that because there was an acknowledgement that there was a tremendous impact to the substance use disorder field related to COVID. Many people were laid off. They weren't able to work the number of hours that they had originally been able to work. Supervisors may not have been able to do supervision the way they had before. There were fewer educational opportunities. There were a lot of reasons that the board of directors made that decision. But just know, if you're in a development plan, that Carrie and Stephanie went in by hand and advanced your development plan by 6 months. So if you were set to expire, for example, 12/31 of 2022, Stephanie or Carrie would have extended that to 6/30 of 2022. So that's already happened. There isn't any paperwork or anything that you need to do on your part. That's already happened. So congratulations.
We're still working on that. We're still working through, because it's a lot of people that have gotten their development plans extended. So Carrie and I are still working on that. If yours hasn't been touched, don't panic.
That's right. But you've done the ones for the next couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
So for the people, if you were set to expire in 2022, 2023, yours has already been extended. But if you just recently got one and it was set to expire in 2024, those are the ones that Stephanie and Carrie are still working on. And if you're set to expire 2023 or 2024, honestly, you're probably fine. You're probably going to be able to get everything you need, and you probably won't even need that extension, but it's there if you do. And so, like I said, we're going to have Stephanie do a sneak peek, because one of the things that I heard a lot when I came into this role is people were like, CERDME is so confusing, right? People were really confused about CERDME. And then those of us who made our mistakes in CERDME, learned the bumpy way, we figured it out. And once we know how to use it, it's not that bad, right? And people will say to me now, I don't know why I made it so complicated. However, when we first started using it, none of us were great at it. And so to solve that problem, Stephanie created how to register for a MCBAP development plan in CERDME. And you can go to the, on the MCBAP website, there's education, and then there's training calendar. If you go there and you search how to register for a MCBAP development plan in CERDME, you'll see that Stephanie is doing one every 2 weeks on Tuesdays at noon. She just did one yesterday, so it's every 2 weeks after that. Of course, not on like Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's, but she's doing one every 2 weeks after that for the end, toward the end of the year. So please, if you're a clinical supervisor, sign up for that so you see what your folks are participating in. If you have new interns and new employees starting, take advantage of that. That's one less thing you as a supervisor need to do, is help them learn how to use CERDME. Stephanie will walk them through that. Coming soon, because there are other CERDME questions, is how to complete your initial or renewal application in CERDME for those of you who haven't already learned, and CERDME 101 for people who just have general CERDME questions. So we're pretty excited about that, and the response has been great. Stephanie's done a wonderful job with those trainings, so we're excited to have her do those. Any questions for me before I turn it over to Stephanie to do your sneak peek? All right, Stephanie, you want to take control of the slides?
Yes, I do. Can everybody see the slideshow still? So it should still say Introduction to CERTME. Okay. This is your favorite part. This is CERTME, guys. I see a lot of people that are so excited about this. First things first, this is obviously just my front page. This is technically this is what you're going to find on the calendar, so it'll be navigating the certification process. I anticipate that may be changing for other sessions. As a side note, this information is subject to change, and you can contact us for the most up-to-date information. I'd ask if you had questions about that, but I don't think you do, right? There's no questions about this? Okay, good. Next slide is going to be our acronyms page, because we at MCBAP really love acronyms. We want to let you know what the secret is when we're saying MCBAP and CERTME and IC&RC. MCBAP, as you've heard multiple times today, that's us. We're the credentialing board. CERTME is the cloud-like platform that you're going to upload things for credentialing. IC&RC, Jen already said, so I'm going to skip over that and hope you were listening. And then specific and related, also already covered in slides, which is perfect because I have a whole long paragraph here. Credentialed and licensed. So there's kind of confusion about that, because credential is what we do. Licensing is what Laura does. So think CADC or LPC. That's the difference there. We have several credentials. CAADC is our master's level clinician, CADC and CADCM. Those are high school to bachelor's level clinicians. And I want to take note of the M that's there, because an M after the credential means Michigan only. So if you see somebody that has a CADCM, that means they can only practice in Michigan. They are not a reciprocal credential, so they can't take it to like Minnesota and practice there. CCS, that is the supervision credential. Like Jen said, only someone with a CAADC moving forward can have a CCS. CPS, that's our prevention credential. CPC is our other prevention credential. The CPRM is our peer mentor credential. The other half of that kind of would be the CPRC, and that's Michigan Department of Health and Human Services version of the CPRM. I want to note that the CCAR and the CPRM and the CPRC are not the same. The CCAR is the thing you take to get the CPRM or the CPRC. Next would be the CCJPM, and that is for our criminal justice folks. When we're talking about, go ahead, Jen, did you have something to say? Oh, okay. When we're talking about the stages of your application, so we're saying initials, renewals, development plans. The one thing I want to point out is that a successful development plan means that you have moved on to an initial application, and actually that's been approved. So when we ask you where in the process you are, you can either say initial, that means you're working on your initial, development plan, which means you are working on obtaining a development plan, not that you have a development plan, or a renewal. A renewal would be for those that have a credential right now. Are there any questions about that particular page? Excellent. I really like transitions in this PowerPoint. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I got really excited with this. The next thing you're going to find, or the next thing that you're going to see, is the MCBAP page. And that's going to have exactly where you can find our development plans. I don't know why I'm pointing. You guys can't see that. You can see the drop-down menu here. It says development plans, and there's CADC, CAADC. To get your development plan, you're going to click on one of those links. And the other thing you should know is that a development plan is not a credential. It's a stepping stone for you to get credentialed. So it's a way for you to gain experience and another way for your employer to bill for your services. This is why it doesn't follow you to each employer. This is why you need to contact us if you have a development plan and you switched employers. So a development plan needs to be in place within 90 days of hire, because so all the requirements in that particular development plan will actually have a very quick due date within 30 days or so. Does that mean that if you haven't completed everything within 30 days, I'm going to trash your development plan application and you'll never be allowed to apply for another one? No, that's not what that means. Keep in touch with me. We can kind of figure things out together. And you'll have my email at the end of this. Any questions on that slide? Excellent. You guys are excited, I can tell. Okay, so once you've signed into Certimi, this is what you're gonna see under the My Credentials tab. It's all kinds of pretty, lots of colors. The first thing that you can kind of see, actually you probably can't see because I'm having trouble seeing it, but you can kind of see my name there and it says Professional at MCBAP. If you click on that, there's a drop-down menu that says Profile Details. If you need to change your name for whatever reason, you can do it there. You'll need to upload a marriage license, divorce decree, whatever, just a legal court document that says your name has been changed. Driver's license don't count. The other thing that I want you to take note of is the digital wallet. There you can find copies of your receipts if you pay for your credential in your credential application, and copies of trainings that you've already uploaded to the education tab. Or we don't upload anything into our digital wallet because there it goes to die and we don't know it's there. I want you to take note also of the circle colors that are next to the 11 steps underneath the CADC. I know it's really hard to see, but they're white right now. That means that they're incomplete. Nothing's been done. Yellow means it's near the due date. Red means it's late, and green means complete. So if you see these little yellow or little dots are green, every single one of them, that means it's been kicked over to me for a review. And that takes place within 10 to 14 business days. I try and get them out faster, but honestly, we're human. The other thing I want to say, and this is about the development plan, this is about the initial application, this is about the renewal application. Click through each tab and read the directions. This doesn't change anything about what you need to complete. It's not going to automatically save as in the answer is no, it's already pending. You won't be able to change it. Just means you're looking through the application. Asterisks in this application mean required. Why we didn't just put required, I'll never know. I think we were trying to make things fancy. We all like to be fancy, right? Okay, any questions about this first page here? Great. Okay, so we've skipped to the end because it wouldn't be a sneak peek if you got to see the whole thing. I wanted to show this page because I think it's important, particularly for people that didn't get my email because I was working things out. Now, when you get an approved development plan, you get this email from me. And it basically says this. It says a development plan is not a credential. It's a stepping stone, right? Between you and your employer, you both get something from it. If your situation changes, you can notify MCBAP by email. You can always call and chat with us too. Development plans can be paused and restarted if you know you're going to be on a leave of absence. So think maternity, paternity leave, that kind of thing. Extensions can be offered for medical or work absences. There's a form to complete and your supervisor needs to write a letter with, and send it in on letterhead. And then you'll also get the same resources that Jen posted along with an encouraged submit date and your expiration date. As always, start studying for your test immediately. Test early and or often, preferably, well, for you, not often. And then add the initial application to your account as soon as your development plan is approved. That way you can start adding education to your account. Because the more you can track it, you know where you are, you can add, supervisors as you need to, that kind of thing. It makes your life a whole lot easier. You're not panicked at the end of your development plan. We want to see your 3 years, 4 years, depending on whether it's a CCS development plan, be as relaxing and as fulfilling as possible. So any questions about that particular slide? Great. Any questions, comments, or concerns about the sneak peek or anything that Jen's gone over? back to you, Jen.
Thank you, Stephanie. So like we said, that was your sneak peek. There is a little more information. And as you watch her go through this with folks who are actually in the process of doing their development plan, you'll see lots of questions that they have. So it is a good thing for you all to participate in if you're supervisors or if you're in the development plan process yourself. And we know you've had an opportunity to ask questions along the way, but are there any other final questions at this point? So finally, we want to say thank you. This is none of our dogs, but we're huge dog people here at MCBAP. So I've commissioned Stephanie's dog to be the next one to hold the thank you card and do the last image. But we appreciate you. We appreciate everything you do in the field. It is the most rewarding work that you can do is to help people prevent and treat substance use disorders. And we just appreciate everything you do in the field. And we want you to know that we're here for you for anything that you need from us. And thank you so much. And somewhat, Wendy asked, how long does it take to become fully credentialed with the CADC and the CCS? You'll get your CADC first, and it really depends on how much experience you already have. So if you go to our website, there's the application will be there that will tell you how many years of work experience. You don't even need to look at the application. There's just a page that says all of the requirements. So there's education requirements, and there are work experience requirements as well as supervision. And you may be further along, and we find that a lot. People think that they need to take the full 3 years of a development plan to get their full credential, and you probably don't. You probably already had some experience before you got in your development plan. Stephanie is popping up what the requirements are right now, so feel free to click on those. Once you have a CADC, then you're eligible to, and if you have a degree that meets requirements as a clinical master's, you're able to obtain a CCS development plan and start working toward those. And for the CCS, the education requirements is 30 hours of education, and we have online resources available to you for that. As well as additional supervision and work experience as a supervisor. And where in CERTIME can I see when my development plan expires? So if you go to the MCBAP website, you could do Find a Professional, and you can look in Find a Professional, and you can look up anyone's. But CERTIME questions, Stephanie, do you want to answer that related to where she would find it in CERTIME? Or do you recommend they go to the Find a Professional site?
The long and short of it is that you're not going to find it in CERTIME. In fact, the due dates on the applications are much more complicated when you think of it that way. So I always encourage people to go to the Find a Professional page. If you have more questions, like you can't find yourself, or you've already cleared your browser cache, because that's something that we find is that because our website's relatively new, people struggle to find themselves on it because their browser has actually held on to an old page. So clear your cache. Still can't find yourself on it, reach out to me and we will see where you are. And also check your little certificate thingy that you got in the mail and add 6 months to that. If you have if you had a development plan around July 11th, because that would be when that'll be when it expires.
Good questions. What other questions do you have? Well, we just want to say thank you again to Anna and the entire team at OCHN. Thank you so much. We know you're busy, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to learn a little bit more about the process of getting your MCBAP credential. And we hope you reach out to us soon. Thanks so much. I'll stay around if anybody has any last minute questions. But Anna, I don't know if you wanted to say anything about the quiz that they, or not quiz, but the survey. And now I scared everybody. They're like, there's a test. No, the survey.
Yeah, so Caitlin from our training team, she's been with us today, and so she put in the chat the survey to take. It is open until tomorrow at 8 a.m. So if you'd like to receive one MCBAP related, as we made sure to indicate, it is a related CEU today, please complete the survey. And then within, Caitlin, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's 7 to 10 business days, they should receive the certificate through their email.
Yep, that's correct. So typically I am quicker than that. I'm hoping actually to get these certificates out to you by the end of the week. And just make sure when you're filling out that survey, you put in the exact name and the exact email that you want on your certificate, and that whatever email you want your certificate sent to. So just make note of that.
And I believe Caitlin is also sending me a list of all of the folks who attended today. And so once I receive that within the next couple of days, I'll send out an email with these PowerPoint slides as well. And as you remember from the first couple of PowerPoint slides, our contact information is there also.
Yes, thank you so much. I did send you a list of our registrants, and I will follow this up with a full attendance record for you as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And everyone can just, I was say if anyone wants to,
Christine. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say if anyone wanted to try the survey link now, feel free. As Jennifer said, I will stay on if there's any other further questions, or if the survey link isn't working, just to make sure you guys can get that. But if not, we are here for more questions. We were here to be here until 1:30. If not, thank you all again for attending. And I saw there's some positive things in the chat about information that was corrected or told. So glad that you guys were here today to have that information clarified for you. I know as a previous supervisor and as a supervisor myself, this can be a confusing time, but it's a worthwhile time. I see some people are staying on. We are done for today. We're just encouraging, if you want that certificate, just to fill out the survey that is in the chat. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us or stay on and ask questions if you'd like. Thank you, everybody, for attending today.
Thank you so much.
Stephanie, I saw you giggle too. Did you see my dog make a quick pop in earlier? I thought so. He's like, oh, mom's doing a training. Let me hop on over today.
I was honestly hoping that somehow your background would go down and we get to say Hank. I'm a little bummed.
The way he's laying right now, he is spread out like, I don't even know what. Oh, there's one question in the chat.
So I have my CPS and I'm the director of a community coalition. I have 2 staff members who are going to begin a development plan. May I hold that development plan for them? Yeah, can you tell us a little more about what you mean about hold it for them? If you don't, you could take yourself off mute and just talk to us, Tanya. That would be fine too.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, sure. I'm probably using the incorrect terminology. So when I came on board as the director of my organization, there were no other staff. So actually, someone from OCHN supported me through my development plan. And at the time, I had to name them on my development plan. Is that something when my 2 staff members go to start theirs? Do they have to name the person? I guess the supervisor. Do they have to name a supervisor? And can that be me, or does that have to be someone with that master's level?
For prevention, it can be you as a CPS.
I'm just trying to figure out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a great
Tanya,
question.
This is Christy. It should be you.
Mm-hmm.
It should be me. Okay. I wasn't sure if it needed to be someone from OCHN again, or if now that I have my CPS, I can help them with theirs. Okay, perfect.
Congratulations on getting your CPS. It can be you.
Thanks. Actually,
Yeah,
while I have you, is it okay if I ask another question? Oh.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, you're golden now. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. May I ask another question since I have you? Is that okay?
Of course.
So I've actually been looking at, moving forward with my CPC, and I'm just really not sure what the benefits may be of that, or if it makes sense for our organization.
For the mentor credential?
Yes. For the CPCR for prevention.
I don't know, Christy, is that a requirement for the PIHP?
No, she's talking about the certified prevention consultant.
Oh,
And yes, if you, as you continue to work as a CPS and have those additional hours of work experience, et cetera, you can move up through, applying to the staff. You can move from a CPS to a certified prevention consultant, and there's not another examination.
Okay. And does it make sense for me to do that, Christy? Do you recommend that your coalition directors strive for that?
Sure, because
Okay.
it gives recognition to your additional experience in the field. But Jennifer and Stephanie can let you know how they help you work through changing from one to the other.
Okay, super. Thank you so much. I will be quiet now and allow others to ask some questions, but thank you for your time.
And Tanya, feel free to reach out to us at info@MCBAP and just let us know if you need more information about the process.
Okay.
We'd be happy to help with that.
Thanks so much.